The morning sun filtered through the garage windows of my Highlands Ranch home, casting long shadows across the concrete floor where I'd spent countless Saturday mornings preparing for fishing trips. At 62, these solitary excursions to Cherry Creek Reservoir had become my lifeline, the only place where the ghosts of my past couldn't follow me. 3 years had passed since I'd buried my wife Linda, 3 years since cancer had stolen the woman who'd made our house feel like a home. Now, these walls just echoed with memories I couldn't escape. I was organizing my tackle box, sorting through lures and sinkers with the methodical precision of a man who'd spent 30 years as a Denver detective, when I heard footsteps behind me. "Morning, Dad." Kevin's voice carried a brightness that immediately set off alarm bells in my head. I'd raised this boy, changed his diapers, taught him how to throw a baseball in this very driveway. I knew every inflection of his voice, every subtle shift in his tone. And right now, at 8 o'clock on a crisp October morning, my 28-year-old son sounded like a man trying too hard to appear relaxed. I turned to face him, keeping my expression neutral. "Hey, son, you're up early." Kevin stood in the doorway, dressed in wrinkled khakis and a button-down shirt that hung looser on his frame than it should have. When had he gotten so thin? The dark circles under his eyes looked like bruises, and his hands, I noticed them first, trembled slightly as he shoved them into his jacket pockets. "Got that job interview at 10, he said, taking a step into the garage. His eyes darted to my tackle box, then away, then back again. It was a tell I'd seen 1,000 times in interrogation rooms. "Thought I'd see you off before I head out." 3 decades of reading body language kicked in automatically. Kevin's shoulders were too rigid, his breathing shallow. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool morning air. He was nervous, more than nervous, he was terrified. "Cherry Creek should be perfect today," I said, returning my attention to the tackle box. I wanted to see what he'd do when he thought I wasn't watching. "Water temperature's just right for bass. Mind if I take a look at your setup?" Kevin moved closer before I could respond, his movements too deliberate, like someone following a script they'd rehearsed in their head. I stepped aside, every instinct screaming that something was wrong. Kevin leaned over the tackle box, his breathing getting faster. His right hand stayed in his jacket pocket, fingers working against something hidden inside. I organized my fishing line, watching him through my peripheral vision, a trick I'd learned from watching suspects try to hide evidence during searches. That's when I saw it. Kevin's hand emerged from his pocket in one fluid motion, holding something small wrapped in black tissue paper. The movement was quick, practiced, like he'd rehearsed it, but not quick enough for someone who'd spent 30 years catching people in the act. He placed the object deep in the main compartment of my tackle box, nestling it between my silver spoon lures and lead weights with careful precision. The whole sequence took maybe 8 seconds. 8 seconds that felt like watching a car crash in slow motion. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced myself to keep moving, to keep winding the fishing line as if I hadn't just witnessed my own son plant evidence in my possession. Kevin straightened up, wiping his hands on his jeans, a gesture that seemed less about cleaning them and more about removing any trace of what he'd just done. I noticed something else. The thin latex gloves he'd been wearing were now crumpled in his other pocket, their edge just visible. He'd come prepared. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. "Looks good, Dad," Kevin said, already backing toward the door. His voice wavered slightly. "You're all set." As he moved away, a small piece of paper fluttered from his pocket, landing behind my workbench. Kevin didn't notice, too focused on his exit. "Well, I should let you get to it," he continued, nearly stumbling in his haste. "Have a great time. Catch some big ones for me, okay?" "Good luck with that interview," I called after him, keeping my voice steady. He disappeared into the house, and I heard his footsteps on the stairs, quick and uneven. The garage fell silent, except for the distant hum of traffic on Santa Fe Drive and my own ragged breathing. I stared at the tackle box like it had transformed into a bomb. Whatever Kevin had hidden inside wasn't meant for me to find right now. The careful placement, the gloves, the nervousness. He expected me to discover it later, much later, when it would be too late to do anything about it. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My own son had just planted something in my possession, something he knew would destroy me. I thought about the past 8 months. Kevin's increasing desperation about money, the way he'd started avoiding my eyes during conversations, how thin he'd gotten. I'd attributed it all to unemployment stress, to grief over losing Linda, But 30 years of police work had taught me that love could blind you to the truth, and the truth was sitting in my tackle box right now, wrapped in black tissue paper. I bent down and retrieved the piece of paper that had fallen from Kevin's pocket. It was a torn corner of a notepad with a phone number scrawled in Kevin's handwriting, along with 2 words. Dr. Anderson, Dr. Grace Anderson, our family physician until 2 years ago. Why would Kevin have her number hidden in his pocket? Before I could process this, I heard Kevin's voice from upstairs, muffled but urgent. I moved closer to the house, standing beneath his window. "It's done," Kevin was saying, his voice tight with tension. "The package is in place. No, he didn't see anything, I'm sure. Tonight? Can't we wait until tomorrow night?" Okay. 9 p.m. I'll make the call then." The call. An anonymous tip, probably. Kevin was setting me up, and he had a timeline. I walked back to my workbench and sat down heavily, the paper with Dr. Anderson's number clutched in my hand. The garage seemed to close in around me, every familiar tool and box suddenly foreign. Last night's dinner played through my mind with new clarity. 12 hours earlier, the kitchen had smelled of grilled chicken and disappointment. I'd tried to make Kevin's favorite meal, the one Linda used to prepare every Sunday. But without her touch, without her laugh filling the spaces between us, it all felt like a sad imitation of better days. Kevin pushed food around his plate, barely eating. His hands trembled when he reached for his water glass, and I'd convinced myself it was just stress from his job search. 8 months unemployed, living in his childhood bedroom at 28, watching his friends build careers while he sent out resume after resume into the void. It would make anyone anxious. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." The tone was one I recognized from his teenage years, the voice he used when he needed money for school trips or had gotten into trouble. But Kevin wasn't a teenager anymore, and these conversations had become far too frequent. "What's going on, son?" He took a deep breath, and I saw his jaw clench. "I'm in trouble. Financial trouble. I need $75,000. The number hit me like a slap. I set down my fork, studying his face in the dim overhead light. His eyes were bloodshot, dark circles making him look a decade older than he was. A small bruise marked his wrist, partially hidden by his sleeve. $75,000? I repeated, keeping my voice level. "Kevin, that's more money than I have in savings. What kind of trouble are we talking about?" His jaw clenched harder. Something flashed across his features. Anger, maybe, or desperation so deep it had transformed into something darker. "Does it matter? I'm your son. I need help." "Of course it matters. I've been helping you for months. Rent money that you don't pay because you live here. Car payments, groceries. I've given you $40,000 in the past 8 months, Kevin. Where is all this money going?" I watched his hands ball into fists on the table. The tremor was worse now. "You don't understand," he said, his voice rising. "These people, they're not patient. They're not going to wait for me to figure things out. They're going to—" "What people, Kevin? Who are you involved with?" He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor with a sound like a scream. "You don't get it. You never got it. You let Mom die, and now you're going to let them kill me too." The words hung in the air like poison. I felt them lodge in my chest, sharp and cold. "Kevin, forget it." He was already walking away, heading for the stairs. "I'll figure something else out. I always do." "Son, wait." But the only response was his bedroom door slamming shut, rattling the picture frames on the hallway wall. I sat alone at the dinner table, surrounded by half-eaten food and the growing certainty that my son was involved in something far worse than unemployment stress. The rest of the evening passed in uncomfortable silence. I cleaned dishes, watched the news, went through my normal routine while Kevin remained locked in his room. I could hear him pacing above me, occasionally talking on the phone in hushed, urgent tones that drifted down through the heating vents. At one point, around 11, I heard him clearly. "I told you, I'm working on it. My dad's being difficult about the money, but I have another plan. Don't worry about it. By Monday, you'll have everything you need." By Monday. 2 days from now, present, Saturday morning. Now, standing in my garage 12 hours later, those hushed phone calls took on sinister new meaning. Kevin hadn't been looking for legitimate help last night. He'd been testing me, seeing if I would willingly hand over the money he needed. When I refused, he'd moved to Plan B. Whatever was in that tackle box was Kevin's insurance policy, his way of getting what he needed, regardless of what it cost me. I couldn't put it off any longer. My hands shook as I approached the tackle box, 30 years of training warring with fatherly denial. The metal clasps opened with familiar clicks that had once brought me comfort. This tackle box had been my refuge, a connection to simpler times when a Saturday morning meant quality time with my son at the reservoir. Now it felt contaminated. I lifted the top tray carefully, revealing the main compartment. There, nestled exactly where I'd seen Kevin place it, was the black tissue paper. My heart hammered as I picked it up with trembling fingers, the weight of it somehow too heavy for something so small. The tissue fell away. A clear plastic baggie stared back at me, filled with white powder. 3 ounces, maybe more. Even without testing, I knew exactly what I was looking at. I'd seen enough fentanyl in evidence rooms to recognize it instantly. The consistency, the way it caught the light, the professional packaging with a small logo stamped in the corner. 2 letters, TS, street value of $30,000 minimum. More than enough to constitute intent to distribute under federal law, more than enough to destroy what remained of my life. I sank onto my workbench, the baggie feeling like molten lead in my palm. The garage spun around me as the full scope of Kevin's betrayal crashed down like an avalanche. My son was an addict. The signs I'd missed suddenly blazed in my memory like neon warnings I'd been too blind to see. The weight loss, the bloodshot eyes, the mood swings I'd attributed to grief and unemployment, the trembling hands, the desperate need for money, the hushed phone calls at all hours, the bruise on his wrist, track marks probably, hidden under long sleeves. How long had this been going on? How had I, a man who'd spent 3 decades catching criminals, failed to see that my own son had become one? But worse than the addiction was the betrayal. Ryan hadn't hidden drugs in my tackle box by accident. This was deliberate, calculated. He'd worn gloves. He'd planned the timing. He was going to make an anonymous call tonight at 9 p.m., giving the police exactly enough time to get a warrant and search my house while I slept. By Monday morning, I'd be arrested. By Tuesday, my face would be on the news. Former Denver detective arrested for drug trafficking. By Wednesday, Kevin would be my next of kin, with access to everything Linda and I had worked our entire lives to build. I wrapped the fentanyl back in its tissue paper, my hands steadier now as cold determination replaced shock. I needed to understand the full scope of what Kevin had planned. I climbed the stairs to his room, moving quietly. His door was closed, but I could hear him inside, talking on the phone again. I know, Kevin was saying, his voice pleading. I'm working on it. The plan is in motion. No, please, I just need until Monday morning. Vincent, please, just give me until Monday. You'll have your money, I swear. Vincent, another name to add to the list. I heard movement, then Kevin's voice again, making a different call. Dr. Anderson? It's Kevin Smith. Yeah, I know the payment's overdue. I'm getting the money Monday. You won't have to do what you said. Please, Grace, just 2 more days. Grace. Dr. Grace Anderson. Our former family physician was involved in this? I pressed my back against the hallway wall, barely breathing, listening to my son orchestrate his plan to destroy me. 20 minutes later, Kevin emerged from his room, dressed in his interview clothes, looking composed despite the panic I'd heard in his voice moments before. Heading out for that interview, Dad, he called down the stairs. Wish me luck. Good luck, son, I called back, my voice sounding hollow in my own ears. I waited until I heard his car pull out of the driveway. Then I got to work. 30 years of detective training had taught me how to investigate a crime scene. My own son wasn't going to outsmart me. Kevin's room told the story he'd been hiding. Bank statements stuffed in his desk drawer showed massive cash withdrawals over the past 6 months. $3,000 here, $5,000 there. The pattern was clear. Each withdrawal timed with his increasingly desperate requests for money from me. Credit card bills revealed cash advances totaling $30,000, most processed at Prairie Wind Casino. I found betting slips shoved in his dresser, hidden under old T-shirts. Thousands of dollars lost in single nights. The most recent slip was dated just 5 days ago, $8,000 lost on a single hand of blackjack. But it was the notebook that made my blood run cold. Hidden under his mattress, I found a spiral-bound journal filled with Kevin's handwriting. The pages detailed a plan stretching back 6 months. January, started borrowing from Dad, easy money, he'll never say no. March, Dad's questioning the amounts. Need new source. Vinny at casino offered loan. April, took $85,000 from Vincent DeMarco. Interest is killing me. 15% per month. I'm drowning. May, Dr. Anderson said she could help. She has connections, prescription drugs. Maybe I can sell them? June, tried Oxy, felt amazing. For the first time since Mom died, I didn't feel anything. July, Vinny wants his money. $127,000 with interest. He sent guys to my car. They broke my wrist, showed me photos of Dad's house, said Dad would pay if I don't. August, Grace says Tommy Sullivan can provide something better than Oxy. Tried fentanyl. I understand now why people die for this feeling. September, I owe everyone. Vinny, $140,000. Grace, $35,000. Tommy, $20,000. Dad won't give me the money. I need another plan. October 10th, plan is set. Plant fentanyl in Dad's fishing gear. Anonymous tip. He gets arrested. I inherit. Pay everyone. Start over. The journal fell from my hands. This wasn't a desperate act born from panic. Kevin had been planning this for weeks. Every conversation, every plea for money, every manipulation, all of it leading to this moment. I found more evidence hidden in a shoebox. Loan documents with Vincent DeMarco's name on them. A contract stating that Kevin had borrowed $85,000 with my house as collateral. My signature was forged on the documents, crude enough that any handwriting expert would spot it immediately, but apparently good enough to fool a criminal loan shark. Kevin had used my house, the home Linda and I had spent 30 years paying off, as collateral for a loan to feed his gambling addiction. When that money ran out, he'd turned to drugs. And now, trapped between debts he couldn't pay and people who wouldn't wait, he'd decided to sacrifice his father. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number on the paper Kevin had dropped, Dr. Grace Anderson. She answered on the third ring. Hello? Grace, this is David Smith. A long pause. David, I've been expecting this call. Have you? I kept my voice calm, professional. Why would that be? Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice was tired. Kevin called me this morning. He said the plan was in motion. I assume you found the package? I found it. Now I want to know why our family physician is involved in my son's drug trafficking scheme. Former physician, she corrected bitterly. I lost my license 18 months ago, overprescribing painkillers. I am an addict, David, just like your son. That doesn't explain. Kevin came to me in May, Grace interrupted. He needed money, said he was in trouble with a loan shark. I told him I couldn't help, but then he asked about prescription drugs if I knew anyone who could get them. I was weak. I gave him a name. Tommy Sullivan. Yes, Tommy's a small-time dealer. He supplies people like me, people who can't get prescriptions anymore but need the pills, or want something stronger. Fentanyl. Kevin started using in July. By August, he owed Tommy $20,000. Tommy suggested Kevin could work off the debt by selling for him, but Kevin didn't have connections. He had me. I closed my eyes, piecing it together. So you became the middleman. I have a network of former patients, doctors I used to work with, nurses from the hospital, people who are addicted and desperate. Kevin was supposed to expand the distribution, but he used everything he was supposed to sell. Now, he owes Tommy, he owes me, and he owes this Vincent DeMarco person even more. $35,000 to you, I said, remembering the journal entry. 38 now, with interest. David, I'm not proud of what I've become, but I need you to understand something. Kevin didn't just plant drugs to frame you for the money. Vincent DeMarco sent him a message 3 days ago, a photograph. A photograph of what? Grace's voice dropped to a whisper. Of you, David, leaving your house, getting your mail. The message said, your father pays one way or another. You choose how. The room tilted. Kevin wasn't just framing me for inheritance money. He was doing it because Vincent DeMarco had made it clear. Either Kevin came up with the money or I would die. And my son had chosen to destroy me rather than risk his own life. There's something else, Grace continued. Tommy Sullivan's fentanyl has a logo on the packaging. TS, Tommy's Supply, that batch Kevin planted in your tackle box. It's part of a larger shipment that's already killed 4 people in Denver this month. If the police find it in your possession, they won't just charge you with possession, they'll try to connect you to those deaths. 4 people dead. And Kevin had put enough evidence in my tackle box to make me look like the supplier. Grace, I said carefully, why are you telling me this? Because I knew your wife, David. Linda was kind to me when everyone else at the hospital treated me like garbage after my license was suspended. She believed I could get clean. I never did, but I never forgot her kindness. She wouldn't want this for you. She wouldn't want Kevin to become what he's becoming. Kevin plans to make the call tonight at 9 p.m. I know. Vincent is expecting payment by Monday morning. Tommy's expecting his cut. And she laughed bitterly. I'm expecting mine too. We're all waiting for you to fall, David, because we're all too weak to save ourselves any other way. I ended the call and sat in Kevin's room, surrounded by evidence of his betrayal, holding 3 ounces of fentanyl that had killed 4 people and would soon be used to kill my freedom, my reputation, my life. My son had spent 6 months building a trap designed to destroy me. He'd forged my signature, used my house as collateral, partnered with our family doctor, and planted enough fentanyl in my possession to ensure I'd spend the rest of my life in prison. And he'd done it all because he was too much of a coward to face the consequences of his own choices. I thought about Linda, about the promises I'd made at her deathbed to take care of our son. He's lost without me, David, she'd whispered. Promise me you'll be patient with him. Patient. I'd been patient for 3 years while Kevin spiraled into addiction under my nose. Patient while he drained my savings. Patient while he transformed from the boy Linda raised into someone I no longer recognized. But patience had its limits. And mine had just run out. I sat in Kevin's room for another 20 minutes, photographing every document, every receipt, every page of his damning journal with my phone. Evidence. I'd spent 30 years building cases, and I knew the difference between proof and suspicion. What I had now was proof, enough to send Kevin to prison for years. But it wasn't enough to save me from what was coming tonight at 9 p.m. I needed help, not from friends, not from family. I needed professionals who understood how to fight this kind of war. I made 2 calls. The first was to Patricia Brennan, a defense attorney who'd worked opposite me on dozens of cases when I was on the force. She'd hated me then. I was too good at building cases for her to tear down, but she respected me, and respect was what I needed right now. David Smith, Patricia answered, surprise evident in her voice. I haven't heard from you in 3 years, not since Linda's funeral. I need your help, Patricia, and I need it today. 30 minutes later, I sat across from her in a coffee shop 20 miles outside Denver, far enough that Kevin wouldn't accidentally see us if he was watching my movements. The thought that my own son might be surveilling me made my stomach turn, but Grace's warning about the photograph of me getting my mail suggested that someone was already keeping tabs. Patricia Brennan looked every bit the battle-hardened defense attorney at 52, silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension, reading glasses perched on her nose as she examined the documents I'd spread across the table between us. Jesus, David, she whispered, looking up at me with something close to pity. Your son forged your signature on 3 separate legal documents. Tell me how bad it is. She tapped the first document. This is a loan application with Vincent DeMarco. $85,000 with your house as collateral. The signature is crude. Any handwriting expert would spot it in 30 seconds. But loan sharks don't care about authenticity. They care about leverage. In Vincent's world, this document means he owns your house. Can I fight it? Absolutely. But it'll take months, maybe a year. And Vincent DeMarco isn't the type to wait for the legal system. She moved to the second document. This is worse. Kevin took out a second mortgage on your property. This one went through a legitimate lender, Provest Financial, $50,000. The signature here is better, more practiced. He probably traced it. When? 4 months ago. According to this, you've missed 2 payments. Provest has already started foreclosure proceedings. The coffee in front of me turned cold as ice formed in my veins. I never received any notices. Because he probably changed the mailing address. See here? Patricia pointed to a line of fine print. All correspondence goes to a P.O. box. Kevin's been intercepting everything. Can I stop the foreclosure? Yes, but you'll need to prove fraud. That means police reports, handwriting analysis, court proceedings. Meanwhile, you're still on the hook for the $50,000 he borrowed. With interest and late fees, you're looking at $62,000 now. I thought about my savings account, $48,000, not enough. Patricia showed me the third document and I felt what little hope I had left drain away. Power of attorney. Kevin granted himself legal authority to make financial decisions on your behalf. He signed this as witness. She looked at me over her glasses. David, if anything happens to you, if you're arrested, incapacitated, or deceased, Kevin has legal authority to access your accounts, sell your property, make medical decisions, everything. That's why he's doing this, I said, the full picture finally crystallizing. The arrest isn't just about inheritance. With power of attorney, he doesn't have to wait for me to die. The moment I'm arrested, he becomes me, legally speaking. Exactly. He can liquidate everything within hours of your arrest, pay off his debts, and disappear before anyone realizes the documents are fraudulent. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling of the coffee shop. A family sat 3 tables over, parents and 2 young kids, laughing about something innocent. They had no idea that 5 feet away, a man's entire life was being dissected and found wanting. What are my options? I asked. Patricia folded her hands on the table. Option 1. We go to the police right now. File reports for fraud, forgery, identity theft. You'll probably save yourself from prison, but you'll lose your house. The second mortgage is with a legitimate lender. They won't care that the signature was forged until you prove it in court, which could take a year. Meanwhile, they'll foreclose. You'll be homeless. Option 2. We confront Kevin. Tell him you know everything, demand he confess and make restitution. But given what you've told me about Vincent DeMarco and the threats against you, that could be dangerous. Kevin might panic, or worse, DeMarco might decide to eliminate the problem permanently. And option 3? Patricia smiled, and I remembered why she'd been such a formidable opponent in court. Option 3 is the one I think you're already considering. We give Kevin enough rope to hang himself. You let his plan play out, but on your terms. You control the narrative, gather evidence not just against Kevin, but against everyone in this network. Tommy Sullivan, Dr. Anderson, Vincent DeMarco. You bring them all down at once. That's entrapment. Only if you're law enforcement. You're a private citizen now, David. A victim. Anything you do to protect yourself and gather evidence is legal. She leaned forward. But you'll need help. Professional help. Someone who can set up surveillance, coordinate with law enforcement, make sure this doesn't blow up in your face. I know someone. Detective Jennifer Walsh met me in the parking lot of Denver Police Department's District 6 station 90 minutes later. She'd been a rookie when I retired, eager and idealistic. Now, at 45, she ran the drug task force with the kind of quiet competence that reminded me of my younger self. David, she said, gripping my hand firmly, when you called, I thought you wanted to reminisce about the old days. This isn't what I expected. We sat in her unmarked sedan while I laid out everything. Kevin's addiction, the forged documents, the planted fentanyl, Vincent DeMarco, Tommy Sullivan, Dr. Grace Anderson, the planned anonymous tip tonight at 9 p.m. Jennifer's expression grew darker with each revelation. When I finished, she sat in silence for a long moment, staring through the windshield at the police station where we'd both spent years of our lives chasing people exactly like my son had become. Jesus, David, your own kid. I know. We've been trying to nail Tommy Sullivan for 9 months, she said finally. He's small time, but he's connected to bigger players. Every time we get close, someone tips him off. If Kevin can lead us to Vincent DeMarco... She trailed off, running calculations in her head. DeMarco's been on our radar for 5 years. Loan sharking, illegal gambling, drug distribution. We know he runs operations out of Prairie Wind Casino, but we've never been able to prove it. He's careful, uses intermediaries. Kevin's an intermediary now. Exactly. Jennifer turned to face me. If we play this right, we could take down an entire network. But David, if this goes wrong, if Kevin gets spooked, if DeMarco smells a setup, you could lose everything. Your house, your freedom, maybe your life. I've already lost my son, I said quietly. That happened 6 months ago. I just didn't realize it. Now I'm just trying to save myself and stop them from hurting anyone else with that fentanyl. Jennifer nodded slowly. Okay, here's what we can do. I'll get approval for a wire in your house, audio and video surveillance in Kevin's room. We'll need a warrant, but given that he's planted drugs in your home and is planning to frame you, a judge will sign off. We'll also put a tracker on his car and tap his phone. Everything we record will be admissible because you're consenting as the homeowner and he's committing crimes on your property. How long to set it up? 4 hours, maybe 5. We'll have a tech team at your house as soon as Kevin leaves for his interview. She made air quotes with her fingers. That interview's fake, right? Probably. He's meeting with someone, Tommy or DeMarco most likely. Good, that'll give us time. But David, she gripped my shoulder. Once we start this, we can't stop it. Kevin will be arrested. He'll go to prison. There's no walking this back. I thought about the boy who'd learned to ride a bike in our driveway, who'd cried in my arms when his goldfish died, who'd given the eulogy at his mother's funeral with tears streaming down his face. That boy was gone. The man who'd taken his place was a stranger willing to destroy his father to save his own skin. I know, I said. Let's do it. The FBI tech team arrived at 4 p.m., 3 agents in an unmarked van. They moved through my house like ghosts, installing pinhole cameras in Kevin's room, planting audio devices in the walls, setting up a receiver in my basement that would record everything. Your son's room is now a surveillance hub, the lead technician explained, showing me the monitoring equipment on her laptop. Video and audio 24/7. We're also installing a GPS tracker on his vehicle and cloning his phone to intercept calls and messages. He won't notice? Not unless he's professionally trained. These cameras are state-of-the-art. The audio pickups are in the electrical outlets, completely invisible. The phone clone happens over the air. He'll never know we're listening. By 6 p.m., they were gone, and my house looked exactly as it had that morning. Except now, every word Kevin spoke, every move he made, would be recorded. Kevin returned home at 7:30, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. He walked through the front door with a spring in his step, as if his problems had suddenly evaporated. "How was the interview?" I asked from my recliner, keeping my voice casual. "Really good, Dad." He hung his jacket on the kitchen chair. "They seemed impressed, said they'd call back Monday." Monday. After I was arrested, after he'd liquidated everything. "That's wonderful, son. I'm proud of you." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Kevin smiled, actually smiled, and headed upstairs. "I'm pretty tired. Think I'll rest before dinner." I waited until I heard his bedroom door close. Then I pulled out the laptop the tech team had given me, opening the surveillance feed. Kevin's room appeared on screen, and I watched my son sit on his bed, pull out his phone, and dial a number. "It's me," Kevin said when someone answered. "Everything's set. No, he doesn't suspect anything. Yes, the tackle box is still in the garage. I'll make the call at 9 like we agreed." He hung up and immediately dialed another number. This time, when the person answered, Kevin's voice changed, harder, more desperate. "Vincent, it's Kevin. I know I'm late. Listen to me. By Monday morning, you'll have everything. 140,000, just like we agreed. How? I told you I have it handled. My father has assets, insurance policies, retirement accounts. Once he's out of the picture, I liquidate everything, and you get paid." Out of the picture. Such a clinical way to describe destroying your own father. Kevin made a third call. "Tommy, yeah, it's done." "Yeah, the cops will find it tonight." "No, I'm not worried. My dad's not going to find it first. He trusts me." "What? No, I don't need more product. I'm getting out of the business after this. Just have your money ready Monday. 35,000 plus what I owe Grace. That's 53 total to your network." When he ended the call, Kevin lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. And then, in the solitude of his room, monitored by cameras he didn't know existed, my son did something that broke what little remained of my heart. He laughed, not a joyful laugh, a relieved one, the laugh of a man who thought he'd just solved all his problems. I watched on the screen as Kevin pulled out his laptop and opened a spreadsheet. The title read, "Asset Liquidation Plan." Below it, line by line, he'd calculated the value of everything I owned. House equity, $180,000. Retirement accounts, $220,000. Life insurance policy, $500,000. Savings, $48,000. Total, $948,000. Beside each line, he'd written names. Vincent DeMarco, $140,000. Tommy Sullivan Network, $53,000. Provest Financial, mortgage, $62,000. Legal fees, bribes, $50,000. Remaining, $643,000. He'd planned it down to the dollar, and he'd left himself over $600,000 to start fresh after destroying me. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "We're recording everything. This is solid evidence. But David, are you okay?" I texted back, "No, but I will be." Kevin's phone rang, and I watched him answer with a smile. "Bradley, my man, how are we looking?" "Good, good. He went to see a lawyer today? Patricia Brennan? Shit. Do you think he knows?" "Okay, keep watching him. If the drug plan fails tomorrow night, we'll need to discuss our other option." Bradley. Another name. Someone Kevin had hired to watch me. "How much for the alternative solution?" Kevin asked, his voice casual, as if he were discussing lawn care services instead of murder. $50,000? That's steep, Bradley. Fine, fine. Let me see how tomorrow night goes. If the cops don't bite, or if my dad somehow dodges it, I'll call you Monday morning. We'll make it look like a home invasion or something. Quick and clean. I sat in my basement, staring at the laptop screen, listening to my son price out my murder like he was shopping for a used car. Jennifer sat beside me, along with two FBI agents who'd joined the surveillance operation. None of them spoke. What was there to say? On screen, Kevin made another call. "Grace, it's Kevin. Yeah, everything's on track. I know you need your money. Doctor, please, just trust me. By Tuesday, everyone gets paid. I don't care if you have to tell your other clients to wait. This is happening. You know what? Fine. You want to know the truth? I don't care what happens to him anymore." My hands gripped the edge of the desk. "He had his chance to help me," Kevin continued, his voice cold and flat. "I asked him for the money. I told him I was in trouble. He said no, so now he's just collateral damage. He chose this, Grace, not me." The room spun. Jennifer's hand on my shoulder was the only thing keeping me anchored. "My dad died the same day my mom did," Kevin said. "He just didn't know it. He's been dead to me for 3 years. This is just making it official." One of the FBI agents swore under his breath. Jennifer squeezed my shoulder harder. Kevin's voice continued, emotionless. "You know what Mom's last words to me were?" She said, "Take care of your father." I laughed, Grace. I actually laughed. Why should I take care of the man who let her die? He was a cop for 30 years, and he couldn't save the one person who mattered. "David," Jennifer whispered, "we have enough. We can arrest him right now." But I shook my head. "Not yet. I need to hear all of it." Kevin was still talking. "After tomorrow night, I'm gone. New city, new name, new life. I'll have enough money to disappear for years. Maybe I'll get clean, maybe I won't. But at least I won't have to look at his face anymore, pretending to be the grateful son while he pretends he's not relieved Mom's gone so he can have his precious solitude." The words cut deeper than any knife. Was that what Kevin thought? That I was relieved Linda was dead? "He goes fishing every Saturday," Kevin said. "You know why? Because it's easier than dealing with me. Easier than admitting he failed as a father and a husband. Well, after tomorrow, he won't have to worry about it anymore. He'll have plenty of time for fishing in federal prison." The call ended. Kevin set his phone aside and opened his laptop again, pulling up something I couldn't quite see from the camera angle. Then I heard audio playing, my voice, from earlier that morning. He was watching footage of me in my garage. "What the hell?" one of the FBI agents muttered. On screen, Kevin rewound the video and played it again. It showed me opening the tackle box, discovering the fentanyl, holding it in my hands. "He set up his own camera," Jennifer breathed. "Smart little bastard." Kevin's voice came through the audio feed. "Perfect, absolutely perfect. Even if he tries to claim he didn't know about it, I've got video proof he found it and didn't report it. He's handling evidence. That's consciousness of guilt right there." He saved the video file with a title, Insurance Policy Number 2. Jennifer turned to me, her face grave. "This changes everything. If he releases that video, it shows you knew about the drugs. Even if we prove he planted them, a prosecutor could argue you were complicit." "Unless we use it against him," I said, an idea forming. "How?" "He thinks that video is his ace in the hole. We let him think that. But what if we stage something? Make him think I'm actually dealing drugs? He'll contact Vincent DeMarco directly to report it, won't he? He'll want DeMarco to know that his investment is compromised. And when DeMarco shows up, Jennifer's eyes lit up. We grab him, the big fish. One of the FBI agents leaned forward. That's insanely risky, Detective Walsh. We're talking about setting up a fake drug deal with a civilian to lure out a violent criminal. If DeMarco even suspects it's a setup, then we'll have agents everywhere, Jennifer interrupted. Full tactical support. David won't be alone for a second. Patricia said the same thing, I told them. Give Kevin enough rope to hang himself, but this way we get everyone, Tommy, Grace, Vincent, and whoever this Bradley person is. Jennifer looked at the FBI agents. Can you get authorization for this? A full sting operation? If DeMarco's the target, yes. We've been trying to nail him for years. The lead agent pulled out his phone. I'll call my SAC, but Mr. Smith, I need you to understand something. If we do this, you're putting yourself in the crosshairs. Vincent DeMarco has killed people for less than what you're about to do. I thought about Kevin's laugh, about his spreadsheet calculating my worth in dollars and cents, about his cold voice saying collateral damage. I'm already in the crosshairs, I said. At least this way, I'm the one pulling the trigger. The planning began immediately. Tomorrow night, Sunday, I would stage a fake drug deal at a warehouse near the South Platte River. Undercover agents would pose as buyers. Kevin would follow me and record everything, just as we expected. He would panic and call Vincent DeMarco, believing his father had become a liability. And when DeMarco arrived to handle the situation, we'd be waiting. It was a dangerous plan. A dozen things could go wrong. But after watching my son price out my murder and calculate my net worth like an accountant filing taxes, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Kevin had forgotten who taught him to think strategically. He'd forgotten that his father had spent 30 years staying one step ahead of criminals. If my own son wanted to play this game, he was about to discover that I'd learned a few moves he never expected. Tomorrow night, the hunter would become the hunted. And by Monday morning, everyone would know exactly who was the better strategist. The warehouse off Santa Fe Drive looked exactly like the kind of place where drug deals went bad. Broken windows, graffiti-covered walls, and enough shadows to hide an army. Which was exactly what we had. FBI tactical teams positioned on rooftops, Denver PD units in unmarked vans 3 blocks away, and Jennifer Walsh coordinating everything from a command center that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. It was Sunday night, 8 p.m., 1 hour until Kevin's planned anonymous tip that would never come. I stood in the center of the warehouse, wearing a wire so thin I couldn't feel it. 2 undercover agents approached me, seasoned DEA veterans who could pass for street dealers without breaking character. You bring it? The first agent asked, playing his role. I pulled out the fentanyl Kevin had planted, now contained in an evidence bag that made it look like I'd been storing it properly. 3 ounces, pure, street value 30 grand. I'll give you 20. Deal, but we do this fast, heat's coming. Through my earpiece, Jennifer's voice. Kevin's in position. He's recording from his car, 200 yards east. He's already made 1 call. Couldn't hear who, but he's agitated. Outside, Kevin sat in his Honda Civic watching through binoculars, recording everything on his phone. The video would show his father making a drug deal, confirming Kevin's worst fears. Or best hopes, depending on how you looked at it. Kevin's hands shook as he dialed. The FBI was monitoring his phone, and his voice came through clearly on our comms. Vincent, we have a massive problem. My father's not just holding drugs, he's selling them. Yeah, I'm watching him right now. Warehouse off Santa Fe. I think he's been dirty for years. That's how he paid for Mom's cancer treatment. A pause. Then Vincent DeMarco's voice, cold and calculated. Where are you? Santa Fe and 8th. I've got it all on video. Stay there. I'm coming with my people. If your old man's dealing in my territory, he owes me a cut. And if he's got product, I want it. Jennifer's voice crackled in my ear. DeMarco took the bait. He's moving. ETA 12 minutes. Tommy Sullivan and Dr. Anderson are also en route. This is happening, David. 12 minutes felt like 12 hours. The undercover agents and I maintained our positions, pretending to inspect the merchandise. Then I heard it. Multiple vehicles approaching fast. Vincent DeMarco arrived first, 3 black SUVs screeching to a halt outside the warehouse. 4 men piled out, guns visible under their jackets. DeMarco himself was exactly what I expected. 6'2", expensive suit, dead eyes that had seen too much violence and caused more. "Freeze!" DeMarco stormed through the warehouse door, his men fanning out behind him. "Nobody moves!" I raised my hands, playing the terrified caught dealer. "Who the hell are you? You're dealing in my city, in my territory, with my product." DeMarco's gun was out now, pointed at my chest. "Tommy, is this your stuff?" Tommy Sullivan appeared behind DeMarco, wiry and nervous, followed by Dr. Grace Anderson, who looked like she wanted to disappear. Tommy's eyes went wide when he saw the fentanyl. "Boss, I swear, I gave that to the kid to plant on his dad." The warehouse went silent. DeMarco's head snapped toward Tommy. "You what?" "The kid, Kevin, he said he'd frame his father, we'd split the inheritance. You gave evidence-grade fentanyl to a degenerate gambler?" DeMarco's voice echoed off the walls. "Do you have any idea how stupid that is?" Grace stepped forward, panic in her voice. "Vincent, I had nothing to do with this. I just introduced them, that's all." "FBI, hands in the air!" Tactical teams swarmed from every direction. Red laser sights painted everyone in the warehouse. DeMarco's men reached for their weapons, and for one terrifying second, I thought we'd have a shootout. Then Kevin crashed through the side door, wild-eyed and holding a gun. "Nobody move!" Kevin's voice cracked with hysteria. "This is my plan, my score." Kevin put the gun down. I shouted, "You ruined everything!" Kevin's gun swung toward me, his finger on the trigger. "Mom died because of you! You let her die!" "Kevin, please. You could have saved her. Better doctors, experimental treatments, something, but you gave up." Dr. Grace stepped forward, hands raised. "Kevin, your mother had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The survival rate was less than 3%. Nothing could have saved her." "Shut up!" Kevin fired wildly. The bullet hit Tommy Sullivan in the shoulder, spinning him around. FBI agents opened fire, warning shots into the ceiling. Kevin dropped the gun and collapsed, sobbing. In the chaos, DeMarco bolted for his SUV. But Jennifer Walsh was faster, tackling him in the parking lot with the takedown technique I'd taught her 15 years ago. "Vincent DeMarco, you're under arrest for drug trafficking, conspiracy, and ordering assault." Within minutes, everyone was in custody. Tommy, wounded but alive, was loaded into an ambulance. Grace cooperated immediately, hands cuffed in front of her. DeMarco's men were face down on concrete, and Kevin, my son, lay in a heap, crying like the child he'd once been. One of the FBI agents approached me. "There's one more, sir. Bradley Hopkins just arrived. Tried to flee when he saw the police presence. We got him 3 blocks away." The entire network, captured in one operation. 2 days later, I sat beside Kevin's hospital bed. He was handcuffed to the railing, facing charges that would put him away for years. His shoulder was bandaged where an FBI agent had grazed him during the chaos. A minor wound, nothing like the wounds he'd inflicted on everyone around him. "Did you ever love me?" Kevin asked, his voice hoarse. "Every single day, even now." "Then why didn't you save Mom?" I pulled my chair closer. "Kevin, I held your mother's hand through every chemo session. I mortgaged our house twice for experimental treatments. I called every specialist in 3 states. I prayed until I had no voice left." Tears rolled down his face. "I needed someone to blame. So you decided to destroy me instead of grieve with me." Long silence. Then, "When did you know?" "The moment you walked into my garage Saturday morning. A father knows." "Why didn't you stop me then?" "Because you weren't just destroying me. That fentanyl killed 4 people before you stole it. How many more would have died if you'd sold it? I couldn't save you, Kevin, but I could save them." "Do you hate me?" I looked at my son, this stranger with my son's face, and felt nothing but emptiness. "No, but I can't save you anymore." 2 months later, the courtroom was packed with media. Kevin's case had made national headlines. Ex-detective's son attempts to frame father in drug scheme. Kevin pleaded guilty to everything. Attempted murder, drug trafficking conspiracy, fraud, filing false police reports. The judge showed no mercy. 8 years federal prison, eligible for parole after 5. Tommy Sullivan got 3 years for cooperation. Dr. Grace Anderson lost her medical license permanently and received 2 years plus probation. Vincent DeMarco was sentenced to 25 years without parole. Bradley Hopkins, the private investigator Kevin had hired to potentially murder me, received 12 years for conspiracy. Patricia Brennan got all the forged documents voided. My house was safe. But Kevin was ordered to pay $180,000 in restitution, money he'd never have. 6 months after sentencing. The letter arrived at my new apartment in Boulder. I'd sold the Highlands Ranch house despite saving it. Too many ghosts, too many memories of the family that no longer existed. Dad, they make us take addiction counseling here. My counselor says I used Mom's death as an excuse to destroy myself. She's right. I blamed you because it was easier than admitting I was weak. You were strong enough to watch Mom die with grace. I wasn't. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know, on the day I planted those drugs, I wasn't your son anymore. I was a monster wearing his face. The real Kevin died when Mom did. What came after was just wreckage. I have 8 years to figure out if there's anything left worth saving. I'm sorry, won't ever be enough. But it's all I have, Kevin. I stared at that letter for 2 weeks. Jennifer visited. Patricia called. Everyone asked the same question. Are you going to respond? Finally, I wrote back. Kevin, your mother believed in second chances until her last breath. I'm not as forgiving as she was. But here's what I can offer. If you complete your sentence, stay clean, and finish a degree in prison, I will be at the gates when you're released. I won't offer you money. I won't offer you a home. But I will offer you one meal, one conversation, and one chance to show me the son I lost is still in there somewhere. 8 years is a long time. Use them, Dad. P.S. Your mother left you a letter before she died. I was supposed to give it to you on your 30th birthday. I'm enclosing it now. Linda's letter, sealed for 3 years, finally delivered. My sweet Kevin, if you're reading this early, something has gone very wrong. I know you'll blame Dad when I'm gone. Don't. He fought for me harder than any husband has ever fought. The darkness you're feeling, it's not his fault. It's grief. And grief makes us cruel to the people we love most. You're going to want to destroy things. Maybe yourself, maybe him. Please don't. Your father is the strongest man I know, but losing both of us would break him. Be better than your pain, Kevin. Be the man I raised. I love you always, Mom. 1 year later. My Boulder apartment was small but peaceful. I volunteered at an addiction recovery center 3 days a week, helping families navigate what I'd lived through. My tackle box sat unused in the closet. Some things were too contaminated by memory. On my wall, a calendar with one date circled in red. Kevin's release, May 15th, 2031. 7 years away. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from the prison. Kevin's voice, tentative but clear. Dad, I finished my GED, starting college courses next month. Just wanted you to know, I'm trying. I didn't call back immediately, but I saved the voicemail. And on the calendar, below that distant red circle, I wrote one word. Maybe.